Here we see some RAF uniforms, and swiftly moving on because we don't talk about the RAF, do we? Unless we want something bombed, slightly more modern. Oh, RAF ladies, lumpy jumpers. Army Air Corps. Always want to get hold of one of the. Always wanted to get hold of one of their vests, with a survival kit inside and that. I got hold of one of the American ones and converted it to an assault vest, even before anybody like archists or anybody had thought about assault vests. And obviously World War II. And you've got to admire these guys, because Bomber Command was second only in losses to the U-boat crews. And it's fairly simple with the RAF Bomber Command. Out of every 3 air carriers, so that's 3 people, only 1 would survive. There you go, ladies, I just made that simple for you. So I do take the piss out of the RAF now. Yeah, as you do, it's service you, man. If you're in the army, you understand that. But utmost respect to these guys. Yeah, so it was 3 people, if you had 3, yeah, 1 in 3 would survive. Some gas masks there. Nurses. Oh, we've got to mention the nurses. And the home front. And the home guard. Don't panic, Mr. Mandarin. Right, and then there's some guns, but I'll bring you back on them. And here's some earlier British uniforms. I'll give you a quick squint on there. Obviously, a Suez War, so that's 1956. Still got the Sting gun, paratrooper. And this is an era, a Korean War soldier. SMG used to be my personal weapon. The reason I used to have a submachine gun, because I had a Milan anti-tank missile system, and I used to carry it 18 kilograms, just the missile system. And the old 44 pattern webbing, which I still think that's where 58 went wrong. Having your ammunition up there means you can get at it a lot easier than when it's on your belt. Again, 44 pattern gear. I love the design of the trousers and the shirts, OG shirts. We would desperately try to get hold of these, rather than using the wooden calf shirts. This is Second World War. Again, it would be used by SAS commandos. The early version Kervit SWAT. They would start with these and then they'd paint them in camouflage. Literally paint, I do mean paint. And the trousers. I've got a replica of this jacket, and I've always liked these, the battle jerkin. It's a shame they've got the old, what they call like the Norwegian pack on the back. And there's a dispatch rider. We don't talk about them, do we? Looks a bit Lawrence of Arabia, but that's stuff Long Range Desert Group and SS would be wearing in the desert. These your Arnhem type paratroopies. And again, the battle jerkin again. You can see that on the vest. I think they'd make a decent bushcraft vest, and I've got an idea to be doing that. Desert tank trousers. There you go. And again, Second World War. Getting on First World War. First World War officer, and we don't talk about them. Look, he's got a map and he's got a compass. See the compass in his hand? Yeah. That's because he hasn't got a good sergeant, hasn't took that compass off him and said, "Sir, I'll be doing the map reading, sir." Because we actually want to get where we're going. Rush Missile Russ Mitchell wore this when he was at Hawks Drift. Yeah, there you go, Russ. Bet that brings back a few memories, doesn't it, sir? I think that's a Martin Henry rifle. Sort of modern type small arms. Ooh. Getting a lot of glare off the windows there. Variations of the Colt 911 Mauser P38. I always loved that weapon. And the PPK, which James Bond made famous, which is a Ponzi officer's gun. They could take on dinner parties and stuff. And the Bren Mark III, lovely weapon, very accurate. Brandon 9mm high power, various versions of it. And one of my favourite weapons, I must admit, just always like that, even as a kid, broom handle Mauser C96. Rebel Mark 6, well, they were man-stopping weapons. I mean, look at the barrel on that. And a silence Colt 45, and it's got an extended magazine now. There's some early, cowboy guns, you know, cowboys. Look at that. That's a Bromper man. He probably got issued one of them when he did his national service, bless him. Oh no, that was more like it. That's more like it, Will. That's, you know how to use one of them, so that was your personal officer's weapon. Because when Rand is posh, even though he's a Labour man, he was an officer. And you just know that in a former life. Ooh. And again. 303 rifle there. Pattern 1914. And, yeah. 4 Mark 1. Another British Empire there. Jungle Carbine. We had quite a few of these in HQ Army and a number of these as well. I really like firing that. That's probably got one of the best bolt operating and the quickest bolt operation and the most smoothest than any other bolt action rifle I've ever used. Now this to me is the holy grail. This was my personal weapon and I did use this as that. Not everybody, they just had one thing that came down and that was your pointer. I was a very good shot with one. You could either, some people could get on with them and some people couldn't, but I did. And every time in Northern Ireland I would add that on my weapon. Self-loading rifle, A1A1. And here we go, I'll call it the toy weapon, AR-15, otherwise known as M16. Early version because of the muzzle brake on it. Never ever used one of them riot guns. But say hello to my little friend. In one night in Northern Ireland I fired 54 down rounds. And that used to be, I used to get slung over my shoulder across my back on my transverse to this. I actually made myself a little holster so that would actually sit on my belt kit. It was heavy so I had to have a little improvised yoke. And the SA-80. A lot of people malign this weapon. I loved it. I cleaned it, I never used it, well, I never abused it. The only time I ever suffered stoppages on this weapon, and bearing in mind I wasn't in a sandbox at the time, was when they had a bulk load of Indian made 5.56 and it was the primers that were the problem of the rounds. And again, light support weapon, I love that. Me and Jock Lee could just sit in the range all day and happily take targets down 500 to 600 metres away. Always had a longer barrel and the round come out with a big poke. But literally the 5.56, sort of 600 metres, you're taking it to the edge of its envelope really. But yeah, both lovely weapons. People slate them and rate them, and I can't really tell you because I never used one of these in sandy conditions. But they were meant for and designed for and tested for use in, you know, Eastern European weather systems. But then they took it to the Desert War and it never really wasn't too brilliant. Oh, at Lancaster, that's the first one I've seen of these. Lancaster, Navy contract. First version of the Sten gun and the Daddy, and if you've ever fired one, you know why I call it the Daddy. Yeah, 4.5 man stopper. Sten gun, pivotal weapon in history, Sten gun really, because they were made in extreme numbers for shillings and then given out to everybody. And yeah, another version of the old Sterlings. That's not the silence version, is it? This is the cheapest model. Again, that was the airborne model. There we see the silence one. And the Sterling submachine gun, 9mm, or 9mm as they used to be called by the lads. And there's one that's silenced. But again, when I went to the anti-tank material, that was my personal weapon. So I was carrying a big heavy missile launcher. And here we see some guns that probably Bill Moran was using. Yeah, it's a brown vest. Oh, there you go, Bill Moran, doing this for Bill Moran, bless him. And Bus Missile, he'd been trained on these as well, you know, when he was at Vauxcliff. Enfield percussion rifle, Sadler rifle, Martini Henry, fired one of these. Lovely weapons they are, hell of a kick, but yeah, loved it. Martini Henry, no, that was the one they push in the top. And long Linfield Mark 1 and a small short magazine Linfield first of all one. Right, we've got some stuff about the Holocaust here. Oh, and some leather bondage kit. It's for Jerry and a lot of the blokes from the MTFU group, Jerry and Ant, yeah. Oh yes, I love all that. Oh yeah, the leather kit. Oh, and the gimp kit. Oh look, and that's where they want a bondage night and want to play horsey. I can chill with they will. God, there's just so much here. Unbelievable. And as I say, this is a little museum within half an hour's drive of me. Never knew it was here. Just jumped in with Val. Let's go, let's do a road trip. It was supposed to be raining like hell today, but it's not, but we still came down here. Artillery Luger. Long barrel. That's unusual that, because normally they went into the holster. The shoulder stock was the holster. First World War weapons were brutal, weren't they? Look at these things. There we go, brain gun. Fired 303 and 7.62, 51. Beautiful weapons. Some of these are tank weapons. Maxim machine gun and a Baser Mark III. That was primarily the tank machine gun of the Second World War. There's no doubt whatsoever you are looking at the granddad of all general purpose machine guns. The Germans did it and they got it right, and it's been copied ever since. MG42. That was the second production model. The other ones had rounder barrels. And everything it's got now. Belt bed, machine gun, tripod. Could be put into a mount for sustained fire there. But massively high rate of fire. You could always tell them guns, and they used to put fear into the enemy just hearing them. sounded like a chainsaw going off apparently. Here we see some, must admit I don't know too much about them, but there's some mortars here lads, but you know, mortars they're okay, but we don't really talk about the mortar platoon, do we? Oh yeah, that is a much underrated weapon as well, and I sat on a range for nearly 2 days getting rid of a load of ammunition with that, the 2-inch lightweight millimetre or 51mm mortar. Used to issue 1-2 each platoon, used to be with a platoon H2 group. In a very short space of time, it's got no sights on it or nothing, and see the white line, you will align that with the target, and that's how you adjust the range, by doing that. And very, very quickly, it's a little bit of a knack to that, and I had it, you know. People will be pointing out things, and I'd drop a round within 10 metres, or 10 metres isn't a great deal, it's 10 arms length, on regular occasions with the HE round of that. I love that, and you know, they kind of replaced it now, but they certainly needed something like that in Afghanistan, in the ports where they were being attacked. That has a lot more poke and a lot more reach than the, you know, like a 40mm grenade launcher. And you see the GPMG, which is about 70% of the MG42 or MG34. Beautiful weapon. One of the only weapons, very few weapons that the Americans adopted. They had the M16, it never quite really worked. And the Americans have even adopted that. So an early 3.5 bazooka. That's not a wartime one, it's looking like me to one that was developed and used in the Korean War. I like things that can kill tanks. I like killing tanks. There's always officers in tanks, and I like killing tanks. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Americans did get it right with this John Browning. 50 caliber machine gun has hardly changed since its inception. It's taken into service. It's still there today, giving it large licks. And if you get hit with one of these rounds, you stay down. Because machine gun. Had one chance, one go at firing one of these. Loved it. But these were the weapons of the British Empire. Water cooled, check it. And again, got to be said, Americans in the 30-yard 6, the light Browning machine guns. That one there says it's British aircraft machine gun in 303. And the Lewis gun, that was advanced for its time as well, First World War. Some of the old Japanese ones at the top there, 96, 30 and a Type 11. There's a chap from the Highlands there, and it's the Royal Navy. It's the Royal Navy along this side, so we'll just quickly move on. Royal Marines, again, loving this vest. Again at the back. Loving that. Because it looks alley, doesn't it? It looks the dog's danglies. And here we see complete case devoted to the self-loading rifle. That's one of the early experimental ones. Held by the magazine. That's a Belgian one. That's an Argentine one. Definitely Argentine one. One of our instructional ones. Very early version. That's the XAE1. And again, XAE2. And you see the little sight on the top of that? Very, very early stuff. And ladies and gents, this room is just full of shooters, isn't it, Al? It is full of shooters. Even all these like guns. Yeah, look here. Let's go to the Germans, the Lugers, Mausers. Jaeger artillery. And all your Walthers down the bottom there, you know, P-38s, PPKs. You know, revolvers, Webleys and 38s and cowboy guns, cowboys. They're guns you take to a shootout as well, they're proper guns for a shootout. And we're obviously coming into the, I'll let Will Moran, I'm just going to do this special for him. He will be, you know, able to tell you what these shooters are, because he was trained on most of them when he done his national service. Very nice. That's just for you, Will. It's just for you. And as we turn round here, submachine guns. Germans were bloody good at designing submachine guns. A Bergmann, a later, easier to make Bergen there. The Daddy, MP40, Schmeiser. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody loves one of them. This is an Egyptian made one. It looks like a part of a Sten gun anyway, but yeah, it's the Egyptian one, and they made it but they made it in .45 and the Vietnamese K50 and the Mausden. That was very much a CIA weapon in early Vietnam, you know, when they sent in advisors. Beretta. That's the weirdest looking gun in the whole world. I remember as a kid, I wanted an Action Man, and I got one of them Korean plastic things, and he had one of these guns. I think it's got SCS MAS 1953. Horrible. A gun that went on very, very well liked, still used even in Vietnam. Don't know what, well, it's a Martin M2 submachine gun. Looks horrible, doesn't it? Looks like something your granddad would have in the back of his car. And Sterling submachine gun and the silenced one. I do like that. Never got to fire a silenced one. And all versions of the Sten all the way down. And there's a Lanchester machine gun which was used by the Navy. Oh, do you know, I love this weapon, yeah. This was the first armour-light weapon I kind of fired, yeah. Folding stock, AR-18. Beautiful little weapon, and if this had gone into production big time, this would, yeah, it was a lovely weapon, very tinny, very lightweight. It's kind of like a bit like an Action Man weapon, you know, like a child. You know, when you picked up an SLR and then you picked up one of these, there was a vast difference. But yeah, early AR-18s. A lot of the time used by the Irish Republican Army as well in the early days. And this was most of the production was done this in the early 60s. Most of the production was carried out at Stirling in Dagenham, Essex. Although of good design, it was not a commercial success. No, because the Americans went down the route of the M16 because somebody gave them a backhander. That's per normal. But ladies and gents, I'm going to have to sort of think about bringing this to a conclusion now. There's lots of shotty guns there. Oh yes. And literally, there, that's again, Will Moran will know what a lot of these are. Various Lee Enfields as we go down there. That's just Lee and that as well. Oh, here we go. Grenade launcher, First World War. Number 4 Mark 1 sniper. Yeah. I have a particular beautiful love for one of these. If you can get one of these and you get on with it, and you zero it. Beautiful weapons, beautiful weapons. And bottom of the SLR, I've seen scopes on SLRs, but never really had too much to do with them, to be honest. And there seems to be some sort of grenade discharger launcher, never seen that before. But there we are, say hello to my little friend. Yep. The strangest thing about these, you could grab one out of the army, go down and zero it, and fuck, no good. Go down the army, get another weapon, and you zero it, boom, and you'll be dropping targets every single day of the week. Yeah, you just had to find one that you got on with. Like, it was like a woman. There were loads of them, but you had to find one that you really got on with. That's a good analogy as it goes. But yeah, so yeah. Oh, here we go, 4.85. We could have had this instead of the self-loading rifle. And this one, as it is here, was... They should have left it alone. Don't piddle about with it to make it the SA-80. The light support weapon version. We could have had this in the 80s. And in 4.85, not 5.56. Individual weapon. The MP5. And the short MP5. And the daddy, the general purpose machine gun, ladies and gentlemen. £24. And the number one, you had to carry about £500. It was quite a heavy weapon. But yeah, we missed the trick by not getting this into service, missing out the SLR. Then eventually that was developed into that. What's called, people call it the SA-80. And we see some nice weapons as well. Rifle pattern, the Garand, the daddy. M1 Carbine. They just designed this to replace the pistol and give them a bit more poke. Very good jungle weapon. AR-15 and a Colt Commando. And a G3. Now I've fired one of these on many occasions. Never really, it was reliable, never had one jam, but never really got what all the fuss was about. And the helicopter. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. So I've got some kids here. And that's with the folding stock. First time I fired these was on an exchange with Portuguese troops. And they were conscripts and that, but yeah. G3, that's some lovely weapons there. Vietnam era, Vietnam. I'll just quickly walk you down it because I mean, I'm using up my potato here, ladies and gents. Various rifles, we're talking about the German, the Mausers, all the early ones. Will Moran just knows all about them. 98k. Various ones, and there's a simplified one there, and well, I think the world's first effective assault rifle, Sturmgewehr. Very nice. And again, you've got a full battle rifle. It's like a full battle rifle round. You've got an SMG submachine gun which will fire a pistol round. An assault rifle, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, whether it's got wood on it or not, will use a shortened and less powerful version of the rifle round. Yeah, so that's the difference between an assault rifle. That's what makes it an assault rifle. Yeah, it's not a 9mm, it's not a 45. Yeah, it's a shortened version of a full rifle battle round. And there is the forefather of them all, Sturmgewehr. 44. Way ahead of its time. And again, ladies and gents, there's all the ammunition bit in there. There's obviously some children from a school in here now, so I'm not. So Al. Alright, mate. Right, ladies and gents, obviously it's a museum, we've got some kids in the background, but here we see some Russian weapons, Kalashnikov AK-47, probably responsible for the death of more people than any other weapon system combined. Romanian one there, Chinese copy, SKS, lovely rifles are, lovely rifles. SKS much maligned. But yeah. Very nice. And the RPD could be felt by, well, it was a drum that was fed from the belt. Very effective, nice little lightweight machine guns there. I fired one of them on a couple of occasions. Very nice. Again, I said one of the first Russian, obviously, magazine and repeating rifles, and the PPSH-41. And again, the Russian version of our Sten magazine. There's the man himself, Churchill. Stand up, we'll get back regimental suit, please, arms. No, and again, ladies and gents, if you fired one, you'll know what I mean. Again, I hate saying this, but it's something else that the Americans got right, the Thompson Submachine Gun. It would take you forever and a day to load one of these, and if I remember rightly, you had to put something on the top to get them in. But yeah, oh no. Very well, they were properly made weapons rather than thrown together. You just couldn't get them, make them fast enough, and they're very expensive to make. They were like the sports car version of these submachine guns of the war. Paratrooper M1 Carbine, the lighter version, M14, love that. Beautiful rifle, and God blimey, it's like rocking horse poo. Eugene Stoner, 5.56 light machine gun. Americans missed the trick by not adopting this as well, and the complete standard system. But again, most of their military contacts, yeah, they were used with the SEALs in Vietnam, and then they just fell out of favour because they went with alternate weapon systems. There's some old guns here. See these things here? I'm just going to stick this in. But a few of you oldies might remember these. There's a few people got shotgun. Very nice. Again here, ladies and gents, is all the cartridge systems, magazines, loading systems, masses, all the various cartridges, various calibers of rounds. 20mm. Apache rounds. That's 8-10 rounds there. Oh yes. And again, lenses. Very nice. Right, ladies and gents, these are, when we have an amnesty of weapons here, that means if you've got somewhere, you know, your granddad had from the Second World War, and you know what I mean, you just drop it in an approved bin by a police station, and no more said. These are some of the weapons that have been handed in, and as you can see, we've got heavily on the Lugers there, a lot of British service Beverleys, some Russian guns, some Walker P38s. Yes, these have been handed in the local Essex area. I was going to say is Redden. That's all. And only a few of you will know what I mean by that. And here we go, look, from hand to mouth, that's what I'm talking about. See where it actually goes into the stock, artillery Luger. Looks to be a Martin Henry lever action there. Definitely Redden. Again, it's just strange is that many of them are not British weapons, especially the pistols. Jungle carbine there. Shotgun that your granddad would have had in that as well. But these have just been handed in. And obviously, Essex Police has, you know, got them into a museum rather than just cutting them up. And Met Police, and the Metropolitan Police, which is the London Police for them that don't know England. Yeah, see this one here? This shotgun here, I hope they dusted it for prints, because I'm just thinking, Redden. That's where that murder happened, mate, wasn't it? Romanian AK-47. They made them to a much better quality than the Russians did, and the Chinese ones, well, they're Chinese. We don't talk about the Chinese, do we? Just at the outside at the Malden Combined Services Museum, we've got a few tanks. It's literally a small little place, but they've done some brilliant stuff with the amount of stuff they've got in here. I mean, to have a Eugene Stoner in there and EM1 and EM2 is unreal, because it's just so limited. There's a Chieftain, I think it's a Mark 10, but it's got steel brute armour on it, the added oblique armour. And for those of you who don't know, this would be the camouflage that the Berlin Brigade would use and that, so that's kind of like a urban camouflage. And the T54-55, now I've actually driven one of these things once. Very, very horrible. You've got a double D clutch on them, and it just takes a lot to get hold of. Once, I'm sure if you start, you know, driving and they're all double D clutch, you get very used to it very quickly. But not on the first day. T54-55, 100mm gun, 7.62mm coaxial, 12.7 on the top. And yeah, very mass produced tank. Let's have a look. This is an Iraqi main battle tank. They called it a Norco T69, and we captured this in 1990. We're getting Chinese Type 90 something. We just used to call this a Chinkom, but again, yeah. This was like an Iraqi APC, but they used anything that anybody would sell them, to be honest. And yeah, a Bloodhound Missile. We was just talking, first time I come across a Bloodhound Missile when I was, I don't know, fishmonger's boy. I went down H.D. Lawley's model shop and bought a Hercules, and it had a Bloodhound that used to go in and out the blank, Bloodhound Missile with a little Land Rover and an RAF guard dog. And if you've got one of them kits now, ladies and gents, if you know what I'm on, if you are nodding and you had one of them kits, the early versions with the Bloodhound in it and the Hercules and the RAF Land Rover and the doggy, you are talking some, the Japanese will pay you a lot of money for the kits, because they're quite rare now. And as I say, there's a big gun there. I don't know much about that. Probably looks like, I don't know, it looks American to me, but it could be anything, I don't know. Can't really tell. I'm not like up on artillery. I mean, I call artillery in, but I don't know too much about it. But it's a lovely little museum, mate, isn't it? Yeah, for the size of it, it's unbelievable. And it's in Malden, in Essex, ladies and gents. I'll grab some information and put it underneath the film. Because Dean, it's the first time you've been to it as well, mate. Yeah. And again, it's local, isn't it? You just don't really know. Yeah,
I've probably met times driven past the road.
Yeah. And you know, it's half hour, 40 minutes drive from my house. But again, when you look at these things, you just think it's so small. But they've done magnificent work inside, haven't they, mate?
Fantastic, yeah, great collection. Yeah. I'm just reading up about cow trots.
What, the spiky thing? You know?
I've never seen them.
Or stingers?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice one, mate. But anyway, ladies and gents, she's got a car park, and we've obeyed all COVID, washing hands, going in and out, social distancing, and majority of the time I've had a mask on there. There were some kids in there, kept well away from them. Not because of COVID, I just don't like kids. Right, ladies and gents, take care, and thanks for watching.